Hi. I wanted to talk to you about an observation I've had, and I don't know if I could really explain it well. It concerns this, the US dollar. And I've had thoughts about the US dollar all my life. And I've had thoughts about currencies and exchanges and how they work. And there's always been kind of one rule. And the rule has been that if you print a bunch of your own currency, you're going to drive the value of your currency down, as stimulate inflation. And as in Nazi Germany after the war, it'd take a wheelbarrow full of currency to buy a loaf of bread. So I've been aware of that all my life. I've had concerns about the US dollar because it seems like, we do print a lot of them. And there's always a little part of me that thinks, well, eventually that's going to catch up and there's going to be a little crash or something's going to happen with that. And so I've always hedged my thoughts and my actions against that possibility. That in investing you should have a certain amount of money in non-dollar related things, in case there would be. But I don't think I can believe that anymore. And the dollar is defying my common sense. And basically, there are 7 trillion physical dollars circulating in the world. And what gets me is with COVID here, we just printed up about 4 trillion new ones and handed them out to the American people and the businesses and whatever, stimulus. Trying to keep the economy afloat during this downturn. And prior to that, the banks were devoting, up to $1 trillion towards easing the repo market. And then if you look at 2008, there were trillions generated at that time in order to, bail the world out of that crisis. The interesting thing about 2008 was that our banking and lending practices here in the United States caused that crisis. But when people had to, flee with their money to a safe haven, they put it back in the US dollar and the US economy. And it seems like the rules don't quite work anymore. I remember when Gore and Bush were discussing what they were going to do with the tremendous surplus of money that was going to come when the national debt was paid off. And I think the national debt was, getting way down under $1 trillion, several billion, $100 billion or so, but I mean, within striking range of paying that off. And then 9/11 came, and the $1 trillion Iraq wars, and borrowing money, and, the national debt has just gone from bad to worse. Trump got into office, we're going to lower the national debt, quit spending, and all they did was spend. All anybody has done is spend. And the debt is huge. And then this crisis comes along. And then you start hearing the gloom and doom of the US dollar. And I've had to kind of sit back and take a look and realize that we have a different environment than the one that I'm used to. The one that is the normal fiscal environment. And it seems like the dollar can overcome about anything. The dollar is the standard of a safe investment in the world. If there is a world currency, it's probably the dollar. And for the foreign people watching this or whatever, I'm not taking any glee or boasting about this. I'm just stating the facts as they have been thrust down my throat, in spite of my best inclinations and thoughts that they would be otherwise. When China tried to create the yuan as a world currency, the first thing that happened was all the individuals and the corrupt people that had money, they took that money and they ran. They got out of Dodge with it. They lost $1.5 trillion in like 3 months to foreign flight a lot of it to the U.S., British Columbia, you know, real estate and all those things, because there was no confidence in the Communist Chinese Party, you know, and if they could get their money out into something that was, quote, safe, they would. They did. China shut that down. They're not going to be a world currency for that reason. Has to be a safety area where you could put your money and be convinced of it. And what I'm finding, and what I'm thinking that I am finding, is that people will believe what they want to. And they want to believe that there is a safe haven. And if you want to believe that long enough, you do believe it. And here in the United States, it appears we have that safe haven. And for good, bad, or ugly, whoever we are, and we have our faults, and the dollar has its faults, and the rich manipulate it and whatever, but when it's all said and done, there it is. And I looked to the far future, and I thought, well, you know, Bitcoin's going to take over currencies and everything like that, and I'm totally wrong. I'm totally wrong on that. It's not. The dollar is going to get stronger and stronger and stronger. The other world currencies that are contenders are not going to be so much. So it has given me some faith in the future for my kids and grandkids and the world in general, that there is going to be a strong, safe place to continue to put investments and value. And the weird thing is, it's not that it is a strong, safe place, it's just that everyone believes that it is. And if you believe that it is, then it is. So all the hue and the cry about the dollar and printing them and crashing them, you know, that is a tremendous power. You know, we print out $4 trillion in a matter of 2 weeks. And what does that do to the value of the dollar on the world market? Zero. And when you have that zero, you're in a different world. You're in a different level of economy and a different level of looking at things. And all this debt, you know, when Bush and Gore were running for president, arguing about, you know, what they were going to do with the great surplus in our economy because the national debt was almost paid off. You know, what people didn't realize is if had that happened, your economy goes down because your economy and your money runs on debt. And I hate debt. I don't like debt myself, and for the little guy, debt will kill you. But for the big countries in the globe, debt is necessary. And if we print more and more money, I don't think it's going to make a big difference. So for the future, you know, my kids and whatever, I just feel much more confident than I ever had that the good old dollar bill is going to remain strong and viable. So just some thoughts. I certainly am open to disagreement on that, and I disagree with part of it, but the reality of it is that is the way it is. So interesting realization for me. So think about that some. I'm going to talk about debt some more another day.